And now, hello everybody, my name is Christian and welcome back to Skycast. And we have multiple things really to be talking about. Multiple rounds of severe weather on the way, and as well as that, a very strong hurricane, Category 4 barrel, that's been the strongest hurricane we've seen this time of year. So let's go ahead and get right into it. And firstly, we need to be talking about the rounds of severe weather. For today, multiple areas of severe weather expected, main area portion being through portions of like Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, portions of Wyoming, and then that marginal risk stretching even further out. That marginal risk including areas of anywhere from portions of Iowa all the way east into portions of Montana and up into Canada as well. And then we have this other area of severe weather down here towards Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. So not really as insanely placed as we've been seeing, but there are two different areas, kind of multiple areas that we are watching for those scattered damaging storms. Main threat for today is going to be towards the area of Nebraska, where we do have an elevated tornado threat. We do have that 5% probability, and then this 2% here. So anywhere within that circled area with those colors in it, you could have a possibility to see some sort of tornadic storm pop up there. Towards Nebraska, once again, we do have that more enhanced area of storms where we do have that significant threat for wind. So once again, going to be seeing winds 70, possibly even 80 miles an hour with this. And then hail not being significant, but you're going to have those possibility of seeing those events of about 1.5 inches in diameter, which is pretty standard for this time. Severe thunderstorms will be possible today across northern/central plains, especially parts of Nebraska and South Dakota. We're going to know those two areas being highlighted for that tornado and that wind threat. Areas of damaging winds and sporadic hail will be possible, along with a few tornadoes being highlighted for today. So some tornadoes are expected and being highlighted by the National Weather Service, and you can pause to read the hypnosis here if you'd like. Fairly long, just to the amount of areas that are being under this threat. Then we get into portions of day two. Day two being somewhat of a more elevated concern for storms. So we do have this enhanced risk of severe weather through portions of Missouri and into Iowa. That is being an elevated threat that we've not seen in a while. Then we have the slight risk stretching all the way down into portions of Kansas, all the way up into Illinois. So, you know, that area. And then you have that marginal risk for those scattered storms continuing to extend down through the Panhandle up into portions of Wisconsin. Tornado threat for this, once again, somewhat elevated for what we've been seeing. That 5% tornado threat there. Multiple tornadoes are possible with this, as well as those tornado warnings. And then that 2% for a possibility of a tornado all the way down into portions of Colorado. That wind threat for that is once again fairly elevated, which is why this went enhanced. You do have that 30% wind threat, so that ability to see winds of 60 to 70, possibly even 80 miles an hour with this. Around 60 to 70 though is kind of what we're looking at in that range for that 30%. And then that 15% hail threat. So overall, going to be a very big day to look for tomorrow for some of these storms. Very damaging storms with that as well. Severe thunderstorms are expected. The upper Mississippi Valley into the Central Plains, mainly Tuesday afternoon and evening. And you can pause the video once again to read this hypnosis. And then we get into portions of day three. Multiple areas once again being highlighted with this. The first area being over here towards portions of Colorado into portions of Kansas and Nebraska, where once again we do have that slight risk there being highlighted with that. Then we come over here to the eastern portion of this through portions of Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, areas like Lexington, Louisville, Cincinnati, all those areas being highlighted under this slight risk of severe weather. Probabilistic of this being severity on both of these is a 15%, and then we do have this marginal risk of severe weather. If it'll switch back on me actually. Here we are. We do have this marginal risk of severe weather stretching through portions of Wisconsin, all the way up into portions of the high plains. So this does include most of western Kentucky, central Kentucky, all the way over into portions of Wyoming and New Mexico. So overall, very scattered threat for day three as well. Day three being Wednesday. I had to look and actually see, wasn't actually watching that. And then if we move down here, severe thunderstorms are expected on Wednesday, particularly across portions of the Midwest / the Ohio Valley and Central Plains. And then you can pause to read these hypnosis if you would like. And then we get into portions of day 4 on Thursday, where we do have this 15% risk of severe weather, eastern Kansas, southeastern Nebraska, and into most of the portion of Missouri. This is once again all hazards on the table for this, and we're continuing to watch as this plays out. But for the most part, this is being highlighted. We always talk about day 4 through 8, where they're being able to predict it so far out that does have that possibility to become some sort of elevated threat. So we're going to continue to watch this to see. Been a while since we've seen something on this, but here it is again, early July, starting to pick up with that severe weather again. But now we do have something more we need to talk about: the timing of these storms today, when we're expecting them. Now, if we are looking at radar Omega to kind of see what the timing of these storms are, you can see big slight risk: Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, into portions of Minnesota and Iowa. If we kind of time this out, it's going to be relatively a little bit of convection through this area. So you can see portions of South Dakota over here towards portions of Iowa. You do have that convection there. Overall, not really seeing that to limit the severe potential for today, just due to the fact of the lack of convection here and the timing spaced between these storms. You can see there's this big gap from the convection areas that we are seeing for that heating of the day to happen, and so that's why we're seeing that convection starting, that severe storms. About 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, you will have these areas right here beginning to form, and this will kind of form into two areas. You're going to have, what you're going to see in a second, you're going to have the south side, and then you're going to have the north side of the storms. The north side going to be more of a damaging wind area, where you're going to have that line of storms. You're going to be seeing those damaging winds mainly for that area, and maybe some embedded hail with that as well, possibly an embedded supercell or two where you could see that tornadic pop up. But that more tornadic threat is going to be down here towards the south, and I do want to play this to kind of show you that. You can see by 6, 7, 8 o'clock, you're going to be seeing that big line of storms, portions of North Dakota, South Dakota, right where I'm marking it. It's going to be that line, and that's where you're going to see the main threat for those damaging gusts. And as this continues on through, it gains that intensity before like 10, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That does kind of die off and lose that intensity. But I don't want to go back, because we have another area down here towards the south area, towards Nebraska. You have these storms beginning to pop off. This, from what the HRRR is saying, not exact, but this is going to be about 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. By 7, 8, you can see these storms kind of somewhat remaining discrete, and if these storms can remain in their discrete mode or away from anything, you can have a possibility to see a tornado touch down with this. The HRRR kind of predicting this around the Kearney, Nebraska, the Grand Island area. But then that, once again, kind of congeals into a little bit of a line before moving off to the east into the early morning hours. So kind of watching this for that elevated tornado threat. If we can either, 1, get a discrete storm, or 2, get a embedded supercell with these, we can 100% see a tornado with this. And you can kind of tell on the HRRR how intense these storms are going to be. Once again, damaging wind, large hail, and tornadoes all in the forecast for today through these areas. That scattered severe threat over 2, 3 o'clock in the morning will continue on before about 3, 4 o'clock. That severe threat will mainly diminish, and you will be able to see some of those winds, but it's not going to be anything wild really for the most part. Now, obviously, we do have multiple areas of that severe weather that we are expecting, but we do have one more thing that we need to talk about, and that is that you can probably tell by the top, Hurricane Beryl. And if we kind of scroll down, here he is. Very much a very potent hurricane. With this is actually hitting the lower Antilles Islands right now, the St. Vincent's Martinique. So we're going to be able to see the images and stuff from that pop out soon, but you can see very much a potent eye wall. You can see the vortices kind of popping out on this. This is a very strong hurricane. You can see from the track, you can see winds in excess of 74 miles an hour on that, but you can see 150 miles an hour currently as it's impacting the island, and this is Category 4 strength. This is trying to hit Category 5 as it continues to re-intensify. It is possible that it could tap Category 5 with the way these winds are, 150 miles an hour. Category 5 is 157, so it does not take much to hit that strength. But as this continues off to the east, it does look like it will kind of die off. Winds of 145 to 175. And then that'll continue off. But before you get here, it does look like it'll kind of lose strength. Now, this is not exact. It could continue on its path of strength. This is kind of just what we're forecasting. But Jamaica, areas of Jamaica could see some of this hurricane and all that. And then you're going to be looking all the way out, further out here, all the way out into the 5th of July, where that starts hitting portions of Mexico before hitting tropical storm strength and kind of dying out in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, that does not say that that is going to be an exact path. This could continue on its strengthening. Don't say it's going to strengthen into major category 5, but it could continue with that strongness as it continues to move off to the northwest, or it could die out like they're predicting here. It's kind of just a matter of figuring out what it's going to do and just continuing to watch the NHC to see what it does. We also had another impact towards Mexico where we've seen Tropical Storm Chris. This is now remnant of Chris with winds of about 35 to 45, but it spawned as Tropical Storm right here just west of Mexico and Veracruz City before impacting, and I haven't seen anything major out of that yet, which is really good for the most part. And then if we zoom out, 2 more areas of concern that we are highlighting. One being back here towards behind Barrel, actually, where we have that 30 over 60% chance of development. So overall, pretty high chance to see another storm forming here. And then we come over here towards portions of the Pacific, south of Mexico, where we do have a 40% chance of it developing within 7 days. So overall, still watching the tropics very closely. This is almost unheard of this time of year. Category 4 hurricane. Beryl is the only hurricane to ever hit that this early. So very much records being broken currently, and that just kind of goes to show how insane this hurricane season is going to be. So besides that, that's all I have for you guys today. If you're under the severe weather areas, don't panic, but be weather aware and know what you need to do in case of some sort of polygon warning over you, a tornado warning, a destructive severe thunderstorm. Just don't panic, but know what you need to do. 2024 has been that type of year where we're seeing destructive tornadoes and destructive storms every single day. Yesterday, even on my Twitter, which you can follow in the description, we had to issue out multiple areas of destructive 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts, areas of hail within the past week, excess of baseball-sized hail. So 2024 is going to be one of those years continuing on where you need to make sure you have a plan ready. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for choosing Skycast as your go-to weather place. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.